Alright, so check this out. Chapter 1 of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey drops you right into the madness, literally. We're vibing in this psych ward that feels like a mix of a prison and an endless game of Among Us, where the staff are always sus. Our narrator, Chief Bromden, is this super tall, half-native guy who's low-key pretending to be deaf and mute. Like, big brain strategy, right? Everyone ignores him because they think he's clueless, but little do they know, he's clocking everything. The ward is run by Nurse Ratched, aka Big Nurse, who's like the ultimate Karen with a power complex. She's got this whole sterile, smiley dictatorship thing going on, manipulating the patients like she's running her own Twisted Sims game. She's all about control, straight up bossing the vibe check. Then, boom! Enter Randall Patrick McMurphy. This guy rolls in like he's the main character of a Netflix drama. McMurphy's loud, cocky, and has that I'm here to cause chaos energy. He's not actually crazy, just trying to dodge prison by chilling in the psych ward. Smart move? Debatable. But he's instantly the life of the party, swaggering in like a boss in GTA Online, making jokes, calling Nurse Ratched out, and generally disrupting her perfectly controlled dystopia. You can feel her eye twitching from how much he annoys her. Chief Bromden sees McMurphy and immediately clocks that this guy's different, like he's about to shake things up big time. The chapter sets up this epic clash, McMurphy's chaotic good energy versus Nurse Ratched's evil overlord routine. It's like watching a shonen anime unfold where the underdog might just take down the system. Stay tuned for who wins this wild power play, but trust, it's gonna be a ride. Alright, so chapter 2 of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is where the vibes in the psych ward really start to come alive. Imagine this, our narrator, Chief Bromden, this huge Native American dude who everyone thinks is deaf and mute, is observing everything like a low-key ninja. He's been in this joint for a minute, and he's mastered the art of blending into the background. Think Zorro in One Piece, just quietly analyzing the chaos while everyone underestimates him. The ward's routine is tight and controlled, like clockwork. Enter Nurse Ratched, the boss lady of the ward, who's got a grip on everything tighter than a gamer clutching a controller in a final boss fight. She's all about keeping everyone in line with her fake sweet tone, but deep down, she's the kind of person who'd nerf fun itself. She's got this whole crew of orderlies doing her dirty work, and they're not exactly winning Employee of the Month, if you catch my drift. Then, there's the vibe among the patients, a mixed bag of quirky personalities, kind of like the cast of an ensemble comedy but with a darker edge. You've got the acutes, who might get cured someday, and the chronics, who are basically stuck forever. Chief describes all this in this trippy way, talking about the Combine, his metaphor for this oppressive system that's grinding people down and turning them into cogs in the machine. Bromden starts to paint this place as more than just a hospital, it's like a battleground, and everyone's either controlled or resisting in their own way. There's tension simmering, like you're waiting for some epic showdown to pop off. And though Chief's playing the silent observer, you can tell he's tuned into everything, ready to spill the tea. Alright, buckle up, because chapter 3 of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is where things really start cooking. Picture this, McMurphy, the rogue main character, is still stirring the pot like he's auditioning for a reality TV show. The guy thrives on chaos like it's a side quest, and his latest mission? Turning the ward upside down one laugh at a time. He's got the patients hanging on his every word, cracking jokes, and acting like this psych ward is his personal stage. Nurse Ratched, though? Oh, she's not laughing. She's plotting harder than Light Yagami with a fresh page of the Death Note. But here's where it gets spicy. The chapter dives into how McMurphy figures out the group therapy sessions aren't about healing, nah, they're a full-on roast fest, but not the fun kind. Nurse Ratched runs these meetings like a toxic group chat where she subtly pits the guys against each other. It's like she's farming drama points, throwing shade in the form of therapeutic questions, and then sitting back to watch them implode. The other patients, bless their hearts, go along with it because they're so deep in her psychological game they don't even see the manipulation. McMurphy? Oh, he clocks her game immediately. He's sitting there like, is this a therapy session or an episode of Survivor where you're all just voting each other off the island? He doesn't say it outright yet, but you can tell he's cooking up a plan to expose her, like the ultimate Uno reverse card. The guy's watching, learning, and quietly deciding how to flip the script. Meanwhile, we get a little deeper into Chief Bromden's perspective. Remember, he's still pretending to be deaf and mute, but his inner monologue is like a mix of poetry and conspiracy theories. Chief's convinced that Nurse Ratched and the ward are part of this shadowy machine he calls the Combine. It's giving major Matrix vibes, like she's an agent of the system, keeping everyone in line while stripping away their individuality. Chief's thoughts are wild and trippy, describing the hospital as this mechanical nightmare that grinds people into obedient little cogs. Whether it's metaphorical or just Chief being Chief, it adds this eerie, sci-fi edge to the story. Anyway, back to McMurphy, because he's clearly not here for anyone's manufactured drama. He keeps needling the staff, pushing boundaries, and doing everything short of flipping the therapy table. One of the best parts? McMurphy laughing, loud and proud, in a place where laughter feels like contraband. The patients are shook. It's like they've forgotten what joy even sounds like, and here comes this guy reminding them that laughing isn't illegal, yet. By the end of the chapter, you can feel the tension rising. McMurphy is like a glitch in Nurse Ratched's perfectly coded program, and she's scrambling to regain control. He's challenging her authority without even trying that hard, just by being unapologetically himself. It's setting the stage for an epic showdown, her polished, icy manipulation versus his raw, untamed defiance. To sum it up, Chapter 3 is like watching the first cracks form in a dystopian system. McMurphy's the wild card, flipping the bird to authority, and the rest of the patients are slowly waking up to the fact that maybe, just maybe, they don't have to live under Nurse Ratched's iron fist. It's chaotic good energy versus corporate evil in a battle that's only just beginning. Honestly, it's the kind of tension that'd make a Netflix binge feel tame. Stay tuned, because McMurphy's about to show us what real rebellion looks like. Alright, buckle up, because Chapter 4 of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is a whole vibe check on how this psych ward operates. Chief Bromden, our quiet giant of a narrator, continues spilling the tea, but it's all through his unique, hazy lens. Think of it like he's playing this ultra-immersive survival horror game where everything's both creepy and weirdly fascinating, but he's stuck in observer mode. The dude is hyper-aware, catching every detail like he's got Sharingan-level vision. So here's the deal, the ward isn't just a hospital, it's a full-on factory, a human processing plant, and Nurse Ratched's the head engineer, tweaking people like she's building her own version of Sims. Chief describes the whole place as part of the sinister machine called the Combine, which he sees as this invisible, soul-crushing force. It's giving Attack on Titan vibes, but instead of giant monsters, it's a system that grinds down individuality. It's deep, it's dystopian, and honestly, it's kind of terrifying. The morning routine is a perfect example of how Ratched runs her show. She's got her crew of goons, orderlies, rolling in like they're NPCs programmed to keep everyone in check. These dudes are not the kind you'd want as backup in a team fight, they're brutal, lazy, and just straight up mean. Chief describes them as being trained specifically to handle patients with violence if needed, and their whole deal just screams toxic energy. You can tell that Nurse Ratched handpicked these guys to match her control everything vibe. What's even wilder is how Ratched herself operates. She doesn't need to raise her voice or throw hands to dominate, she's got this quiet menace, like a final boss who's just watching you struggle before revealing their real power. She manipulates with subtlety, smiling while stabbing you in the back. Chief's onto her game, though. He sees how she uses shame, humiliation, and fear to keep the patients in line. She's like a puppet master, pulling strings while everyone dances to her tune. Then there's the patients themselves. It's like watching a group of Twitch streamers who've all been forced to collab against their will. The acutes, who might still have a chance to get better, are mostly just trying to survive without losing what little freedom they've got left. The chronics, on the other hand, are done for, completely written off by the system. They're like those background characters in games who've got no quests left, just wandering around aimlessly. Chief lays it all out, describing how everything in the ward is designed to break people down. It's not just about the meds or the treatments, it's the routine, the atmosphere, the constant pressure. Even the smallest acts of rebellion, like speaking up or stepping out of line, are crushed immediately. The Combine doesn't want individuality, it wants drones. It's like one giant Squid Game, but instead of physical survival, it's about holding onto your sense of self. What makes this chapter so wild is Chief's perspective. He's been in this system for so long that he's learned to blend in, to act like he's part of the machine so no one notices him. He calls it fog, this state of mind where everything feels muted and distant, and he uses it to escape when things get too intense. But you can tell he's also deeply aware of what's happening around him. He sees through the cracks, noticing details that others miss, like how the orderlies are really just tools for Ratched or how the patients are subtly fighting back in their own ways. This whole chapter is basically a deep dive into the ward's dark energy. It's setting the stage for what's to come, showing just how oppressive and twisted this place is. You start to see why the patients act the way they do, why they're so beaten down, and why any kind of change is going to be a fight. Chief's description of the Combine is both literal and metaphorical, like a commentary on how society crushes individuality to create productive citizens. It's heavy, but Kessie's got this way of making it hit without feeling preachy. By the end of the chapter, you're left feeling like something's gotta give. The ward system is so tight, so perfectly controlled, that it's begging for someone to come in and shake things up. Chief doesn't say it outright, but you can feel it in the way he talks about the fog and the Combine. This place needs a disruptor, a glitch in the matrix. And though Chief's staying silent and playing it cool, you just know he's watching, waiting for that spark to light things up. It's the calm before the storm, and you can't help but feel hyped for what's coming next. Alright, let's dig into Chapter 5 of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, where things hit that next level drama mode and the chessboard between McMurphy and Nurse Ratched gets real. Picture this, we're in another one of those group therapy sessions that Nurse Ratched runs like she's a puppet master pulling strings, making the patients dance to her twisted little tune. McMurphy, though? Oh, he's got other plans. He's like that rogue player in an RPG who refuses to follow the main quest line and decides to mess with the NPCs instead. So, the vibe is already tense, and then we dive into the group dynamics, which are super messy. Like, if this ward were a Discord server, it'd be absolute chaos. Nurse Ratched starts the session in her usual I'm here to help you fake nice tone, but her whole deal is less about helping and more about exposing everyone's insecurities. It's her power play, making the men feel small so they stay in line. She's basically farming XP off their emotional breakdowns, leveling up her control with every session. Honestly, if she were in League of Legends, she'd be the jungler ganking her own team for fun. But here's the kicker, McMurphy's not falling for it. He's sitting there watching all this like, are y'all seriously letting her gaslight you into oblivion? The patients, though? They're so deep in the system that they've kind of forgotten how to fight back. It's sad, but it also sets the stage for McMurphy's big hero arc. He's like that one dude in an anime who walks into a corrupt city and decides, yeah, I'm about to flip this whole system upside down. Now, during this session, we meet Dale Harding, one of the sharper guys in the ward. Harding's got this sarcastic, intellectual vibe, but he's also deeply insecure. The guy's dealing with some major internal struggles, especially about his masculinity and how he thinks people view him. Nurse Ratched latches onto that like a hawk spotting prey. She's poking and prodding, making these subtle digs at him, and the other patients join in because, well, that's how this toxic system works. It's giving major everyone's too scared to fight the boss, so they attack each other instead. Energy. McMurphy, though? He's not about to let this slide. He jumps in, throwing out jokes and deflecting the tension like he's playing mental dodgeball. He's not just trying to stir the pot for fun, though, that's the wild part. McMurphy's jokes and antics are his way of showing the guys that they don't have to just sit there and take it. He's planting seeds of rebellion, even if the patients don't fully get it yet. It's like watching someone slowly wake up their squad in a co-op game, getting everyone ready for the final boss battle. What's wild is how Nurse Ratched reacts to McMurphy. You'd think she'd just shut him down immediately, right? But no, she's playing the long game. She's watching him closely, probably calculating exactly how to take him down without losing her grip on the ward. It's a full-on psychological chess match, and honestly, it's intense. You can feel the power struggle brewing between these two, and it's only a matter of time before someone makes a move that changes everything. The chapter also gives us more insight into the patients and their struggles. It's not just about McMurphy versus Nurse Ratched, it's about the whole group and how they've been broken down by this system. These guys have been so beaten down by the hospital's routines and rules that they don't even know how to stand up for themselves anymore. McMurphy sees that, and you can tell he's already thinking about how to change it. He's like, what if we just didn't let her control us? It's a revolutionary thought for these guys, and you can feel the spark of rebellion starting to catch fire. By the end of the chapter, you're left on the edge of your seat. McMurphy's not just a clown here to entertain, he's a disruptor, a wildcard, a player who's rewriting the rules of the game. And Nurse Ratched? She knows it. She's still got the upper hand for now, but you can tell she's worried. McMurphy's laughter, his jokes, his refusal to bow down, it's all a direct challenge to her authority, and it's shaking up the whole ward. So yeah, Chapter 5 is a wild ride. It's got power plays, psychological drama, and the first signs of real resistance against a system that's been grinding these men down for years. McMurphy's energy is contagious, and even though the patients aren't fully on board yet, you can tell they're starting to see the cracks in Nurse Ratched's facade. It's like the early stages of a revolution, and you just know things are about to get even crazier. Get ready, because this is just the beginning of the chaos McMurphy's about to unleash. Alright, so Chapter 6 of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is where things really start to heat up, like the tutorial level's over, and the game's finally getting spicy. Chief Bromden's still our stealthy, low-key narrator, giving us all the deets while pretending to be invisible. This guy's like that one gamer who sits back quietly, watching everyone else mess up before making his move. He's clocking everything going on in the ward, and his observations hit different. First, let's talk about Nurse Ratched, the queen of toxic vibes. She's still running her ward like a tyrant, cold, calculated, and always scheming. Her power move in this chapter is setting up a group therapy session, but don't let the name fool you. Therapy, my dude? Nah, this is more like a public roasting session where she plays puppet master. It's not about helping anyone heal, it's about keeping everyone in check, breaking down their confidence one snarky comment at a time. Imagine she's got her own death note, but instead of writing names, she's writing insecurities. The session kicks off with Ratched throwing shade at Dale Harding, who's got a big brain but zero chill when it comes to handling his own insecurities. She subtly picks at him, making him spiral, and then lets the other patients pile on. It's like a toxic Reddit thread come to life, and Harding's just sitting there getting ratioed in real time. The worst part? Ratched makes it look like they started it, so she's technically innocent. It's pure psychological warfare. Meanwhile, Chief is watching all this like, y'all don't even see the game she's playing. He notices how Ratched uses these sessions to keep everyone weak and divided. No one's trusting each other because she's got them paranoid and self-conscious. Chief describes the energy of the room as heavy, like this invisible fog is rolling in, choking everyone out emotionally. It's intense, bro. The fog is kind of his way of describing how oppressive the system is, but it's also his coping mechanism, like slipping into a mental hide-and-seek to survive the madness. Then we've got McMurphy, the wild card. He's that one player who doesn't follow the rules and just vibes his own way, trolling the system. During the session, he's not afraid to call out the BS. McMurphy's watching Ratched's power moves and starting to clock how she controls the room. He's not fully confronting her yet, he's testing the waters, figuring out how far he can push. You can feel the tension building between them, like two fighters circling each other in an epic anime battle setup. You know a clash is coming, but for now, McMurphy's just gathering data. This chapter's all about showing how deep the control runs in the ward. Ratched's got everyone on strings, but McMurphy? He's the glitch in the system. Chief's watching him like, could this guy actually break the combine? The mood is heavy, the stakes are rising, and the ward's a ticking time bomb. You can tell McMurphy's gonna shake things up, it's just a matter of when. Stay tuned, because this is about to get real. Alright, Chapter 7 of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is like stepping into a fever dream. Literally, because this chapter is all about Chief Bromden's surreal, trippy thoughts and how he sees the ward at night. Imagine the lights are dim, the vibe is eerie, and Chief's inner monologue goes full-on conspiracy mode, blending paranoia with poetic descriptions. It's giving major Attack on Titan vibes, where the world feels bigger, scarier, and more oppressive than anyone realizes. So, here's the scene. Chief Bromden wakes up in the middle of the night, and instead of counting sheep, he's deep diving into his belief that the hospital is part of this massive, soul-crushing machine he calls the Combine. According to Chief, this thing is like the ultimate big bad, controlling society, people's thoughts, and every tiny detail of life. The ward, to him, isn't just a hospital, it's the Combine's factory, grinding people down and stripping away everything that makes them human. It's like a dystopian video game where the NPCs are trapped in a loop, and only Chief can see the hidden boss mechanics. As he's lying there, the hospital's sounds and shadows twist into these mechanical horrors. He imagines machines working under the floor, wires everywhere, and even the staff as part of this creepy hive mind. It's a wild mix of sci-fi and horror, but here's the kicker, Chief's not completely wrong. His exaggerated vision actually captures the way Nurse Ratched and the system really do control everyone, just in a less literal way. The whole chapter is haunting but also kind of beautiful, showing Chief's deep fear but also hinting that he might be waking up, especially with McMurphy around. It's like the prelude to a rebellion, with Chief slowly realizing there's more to life than the Combine. Alright, Chapter 8 of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is where things hit peak awkward hilarity and McMurphy's chaos vibes really shine. So, the day starts off pretty routine. Well, routine in this place means everyone shuffling around like NPCs, following a glitchy script. But McMurphy, our boy, isn't about to play by the rules. He's still got that cocky smirk and what can I mess up today? Energy. You know that anime character who's always 10 steps ahead of everyone else, but acts like they're just winging it? That's McMurphy all day. So, here's the scene. The patients are getting ready for their daily chores, which, let's be real, is just Nurse Ratched's way of making them feel even smaller. It's like a never-ending fetch quest where the rewards are just more humiliation. Everyone's going through the motions except McMurphy, who's wandering around looking like he's got some kind of master plan brewing. The vibe shifts when he decides to call out the staff for their absurd rules. Like, he's not just being rebellious, he's pointing out how ridiculous it all is, and honestly, it's hilarious. He's got that Deadpool-style humor, breaking the fourth wall of the ward and showing the patients just how much of a joke the system is. Then we get to the absolute highlight. McMurphy walks into the bathroom and finds out that the staff has some weird obsession with micromanaging literally everything. The faucets are rigged so they only release a trickle of water, like, imagine trying to wash your face, and it feels like the faucet is in slow mode on purpose. It's a small thing, but to McMurphy, it's symbolic of how the hospital controls every aspect of the patients' lives. And instead of shrugging it off, McMurphy decides to make it his personal side quest to fix it. So, what does our boy do? He grabs this massive hydrotherapy panel, which is basically a big sink that no one's supposed to touch. He's like, bet I can move this thing, and the other patients are just watching, low-key impressed, but also thinking he's lost his mind. He's hyping himself up, talking about how strong he is, and trying to lift it like he's powering up for a Dragon Ball Z moment. Spoiler, the thing doesn't budge. But here's the kicker, McMurphy doesn't look embarrassed or defeated. Instead, he laughs it off, like, well, at least I gave it a shot. It's such a small moment, but it's huge for the patients. They see someone actually try to challenge the system, fail, and still walk away with his pride intact. It's a vibe shift for sure. Meanwhile, Nurse Ratched is lurking in the background like a final boss waiting for the right moment to strike. She doesn't directly call McMurphy out yet, but you know she's taking notes. It's like when you're playing a stealth game and you accidentally alert the enemy, and now you're just waiting for them to retaliate. McMurphy's antics are definitely on her radar, and you can feel the tension building. What's cool about this chapter is how it shows McMurphy starting to rub off on the other patients. They're still scared of Nurse Ratched and the system, but McMurphy's boldness is like a spark. It's subtle, but you can see them starting to question things. Chief Bromden, especially, is watching all of this go down and feeling something he hasn't felt in years, hope. Remember, Bromden's been stuck in his own head, convinced that the hospital is this all-powerful machine he calls the Combine. But seeing McMurphy push back, even in small ways, makes him start to believe that maybe the system isn't as invincible as he thought. The whole chapter is basically McMurphy testing the waters, both literally, with that broken faucet, and metaphorically, by challenging the unspoken rules of the ward. He's not outright starting a revolution yet, but he's planting seeds. His humor and refusal to take things seriously are contagious, and you can feel the patients starting to wake up from the fog Nurse Ratched has kept them in. It's like the first step in a long boss fight. McMurphy's figuring out the mechanics, learning how the system works so he can eventually take it down. By the end of the chapter, you're left with this mix of humor, hope, and anticipation. McMurphy's not just some clown here to make jokes, he's shaking up the entire power dynamic of the ward. And while Nurse Ratched still seems like she's got control, you can tell her grip is starting to slip. It's only a matter of time before things explode, and honestly, I can't wait to see what McMurphy does next. This chapter is like the perfect setup for the chaos that's about to unfold. Stay tuned, because McMurphy's just getting started. Alright, so chapter 9 of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is like when the main character decides to stop messing around and starts flipping the script. McMurphy, our certified chaos generator, has had enough of Nurse Ratched and her squad of bootlicking orderlies running the ward like it's her personal dystopia. The dude's not just here to chill anymore, he's on a mission to shake things up, and boy, does he start swinging. First, McMurphy decides to take on Ratched's precious routine, which is tighter than an esports schedule. This whole place runs on a strict clock, meds, meals, group therapy. It's like every hour's a mini speedrun, except it's all about crushing your spirit instead of saving the princess. And McMurphy? Yeah, he's not vibing with it. He notices that the ward's music, this obnoxious, cheerful garbage, is playing non-stop like the world's most annoying YouTube ad that you can't skip. The patients are clearly over it too, but nobody speaks up. Enter McMurphy, who's like, yo, can we please turn this junk down? It's driving me insane. Ratched, being Ratched, shuts that down immediately. She claps back with some weak excuse about how the older patients need it loud to hear, but we all know it's a power move. It's not about the music, it's about her flexing control. McMurphy's no dummy, though. He sees right through her, and while she's trying to keep things polite, you can practically see her clutching her pearls at his audacity. But that's not even the main event. McMurphy really gets the party started when he suggests a vote to watch the World Series on TV. It's such a simple thing, right? Just a little baseball to break up the monotony of this soul-crushing hospital. The patients, however, are so beaten down by Ratched's constant psychological warfare that they're too scared to say yes. She's got them so wrapped up in fear of stepping out of line that they can't even back something as harmless as baseball. It's depressing, but also shows just how deep her control runs. McMurphy? Oh, he's not letting that slide. He rallies the acutes, hyping them up like a coach before a big match. He's cracking jokes, teasing them, and basically acting like the world's chillest revolutionary leader. The guy's energy is contagious, and one by one, the patients start to vote with him. It's like a classic anime scene where the main character inspires everyone to stand up against the villain. Except instead of a magic sword or a special attack, McMurphy's wielding sarcasm and charm. Of course, Ratched pulls her usual shady moves to keep the vote from passing. She waits until the very end of the meeting and then says they need a majority of all the patients to win, not just the ones in the room. Talk about moving the goalposts. Most of the chronics don't even pay attention, and Ratched knows they're too far gone to vote. It's such a scam, and McMurphy realizes she's playing dirty. But instead of blowing up, he plays it cool, acting like he's just getting started. You can feel the gears turning in his head, this isn't over. The big moment comes later when McMurphy stands in front of the TV during the World Series time slot, even though it's turned off. He sits there, pretending to watch the game, narrating it like he's the play-by-play announcer. The other patients slowly join in, gathering around him, caught up in his energy. It's such a power move, he's creating his own reality, showing that they don't need Ratched's approval to enjoy themselves. It's like he's saying, screw the system, we make our own fun. This chapter is peak McMurphy. He's not just trolling for the sake of trolling, he's showing the other patients that they don't have to stay trapped in Ratched's cycle of control. It's all about planting the seeds of rebellion, giving them a taste of what it's like to stand up for themselves. You can tell he's in it for the long game, and while Ratched keeps trying to shut him down, she's starting to realize that he's not like the others. This guy's here to break the combine, and Chapter 9 is him throwing the first punch in what's shaping up to be an epic battle of wills. Alright, so Chapter 10 of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is basically McMurphy's I do what I want energy hitting new levels. He's fully leaning into his role as the ward's chaos leader, testing Nurse Ratched's limits like he's speedrunning rebellion. This chapter is mostly a vibe check on the power struggle brewing. McMurphy's all smiles and jokes, but you can tell he's watching how everyone reacts, plotting his next big move. The dude's got main character energy, and even though Ratched's trying to keep control, you can feel her grip slipping. The ward's not ready for this guy. Alright, Chapter 11 of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is where the ward's vibe goes from weirdly oppressive to straight up chaotic, all thanks to McMurphy being the human equivalent of a Molotov cocktail. This guy is out here pulling moves like he's the protagonist in a slice-of-life anime, determined to shake things up and remind everyone what it means to actually live. And of course, Nurse Ratched is out here trying to hold her crumbling regime together with her trademark mix of fake smiles and icy glares. So, McMurphy has this big idea. He wants to change up the ward's strict, soul-sucking schedule by convincing the group to watch the World Series on TV. You'd think this would be a simple ask, but nah, it's like trying to overthrow the Capitol in the Hunger Games. He's like, let's vote on it, because he's all about democracy and giving the patients a voice. But Nurse Ratched isn't having it. She rigs the vote by making the non-committal patients, basically the ward's equivalent of AFK players, count as no votes. Classic power move. But McMurphy isn't backing down. He's like, fine, I'll show you what real persistence looks like, and tries again the next day. This time, he convinces some of the patients who never speak up, like, literally never, to raise their hands. Even Chief Bromden, who's been pretending to be deaf and mute for years, feels something stir inside him. McMurphy's like that shonen anime hero who inspires the quiet, overlooked characters to step into their power. And guess what? Chief actually raises his hand, which is huge. But Nurse Ratched still shuts it down, claiming the vote came in too late. Talk about moving the goalposts. Now, here's where McMurphy pulls a 200 IQ play. Instead of arguing, he just sits himself in front of the blank TV screen during game time, staring at it like he's actually watching the game. It's next-level trolling. The other patients catch on, and suddenly they're all gathered around him, acting like they're watching the game too, cheering and laughing as if they're at a live stadium. It's this beautiful, chaotic moment of rebellion where they reclaim a piece of freedom even though they technically lost the vote. And Nurse Ratched? Oh, she's fuming. She can't punish them for breaking a rule, because technically they're not, but you know she's plotting her revenge. The power dynamic is officially shaken, and McMurphy's got the patients remembering what it feels like to have fun, to dream, and to push back against the machine. It's like he lit a spark, and now it's spreading. This chapter is a vibe shift for the ward. McMurphy's antics aren't just about being funny or defiant, they're about showing these guys that they're still human, still capable of standing up to the system. It's both hilarious and powerful, and you just know things are only going to get wilder from here. Alright, chapters 12 through 14 of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest are where McMurphy really starts making moves, and the ward? Total chaos is brewing. First, McMurphy figures out Nurse Ratched's whole power play is all about fear and manipulation. She's basically a walking final boss, controlling everyone with mind games. But McMurphy? He's like, nah, I'm not playing this rigged game, and starts rallying the other patients to think for themselves. It's giving Attack on Titan break the system energy. There's this legendary moment where McMurphy bets he can lift a huge control panel nobody's ever moved. Spoiler, he can't. But it's not about winning, it's about showing everyone that trying is its own flex. Chief Bromden, meanwhile, is waking up from his mental fog like he's realizing he's got plot armor too. McMurphy's shaking the whole ward's vibe, and Ratched? She's seething in her perfectly ironed uniform. Stay tuned, it's about to pop off.